Broadcasting from our New England studio, Solutions Review is proud to showcase Zerto in the Solution Spotlight, an inside look at enterprise technologies.
I'm Doug Atkinson here at Solutions Review, and welcome to the Solution Spotlight featuring Zerto and focused on the power of the Zerto Cloud Vault for cyber resilience. As ransomware and other cyber threats continue to escalate, safeguarding your business's most valuable asset, its data, has never been more vital. So today, we will shine our spotlight on how the Zerto Cloud Vault combines immutability, airtight security protocols, and seamless integration into your disaster recovery and backup workflows to ensure your data remains safe and recoverable, no matter the threat. Some of the key capabilities on display include real-time encryption detection, air-gapped data protection, and journal-based recovery. And to walk us through the Zerto solution today is Mike Nassis, Product Marketing Manager, and Anthony Dutra, Technical Marketing Engineer. Gentlemen, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having us. Yeah, thank you.
Well, so I know the bright, shiny object in technology these days is AI, but the fact of the matter is that is, at this point, kind of a nice to have. The have-to-haves still exist, and we love talking about things like cyber resilience in specific, and so we're really glad that you're here. I know we've got a lot to cover, and I want to let you guys get after it, but before we do, Mike and Anthony, why don't you just share a little bit about your story and how we've all ended up here today?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have been with Zerto for almost 3 years now on the product marketing team. I focus on our vertical marketing initiatives, so really industry marketing, public sector, manufacturing, healthcare, financial services, and creating tailored messaging for each of those verticals. So that's my focus, and most of my background has been software marketing over the last about decade or so.
Awesome. Yeah, my name's Anthony Dutra. I'm what's called the technical marketing engineer for Zerto for about the past 3 years now. And I get to basically do everything under the sun that's fun with the Zerto technology. Come speak about its benefits in this ever-changing sort of ransomware world. And I've been in the technology game for over 10 plus years, working as a systems engineer and now as a marketing engineer in this space.
Well, thanks for being here. Before we let you take off, I just want to set everybody's expectations that we're going to have a fairly detailed presentation here, certainly a lot to cover, but we want you all to stick around for the end because we're going to open it up for Q&A. The way we like to do it here is to have your questions come to me so that I can then moderate the Q&A at the end and filter out the questions to the appropriate folks when we have two expert guests. So I'm going to turn it over to you now, Mike. And when you wrap it up, give me a heads up, and we'll jump back into the Q&A.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for everybody for joining today. We have a pretty extensive overview of Zerto and our solution. So the main theme will be the Cloud Vault and cyber resilience, but for those of you who haven't heard of us before, I'll get into a little bit of who we are and what we do at Zerto. So let's get started. So we at Zerto have been around for almost 15 years now. We protect, recover, and move your applications and data for continuous availability across both on-premise and cloud environments as well. We help protect customers from the SMB space all the way up to large Fortune 50, 10, even Fortune 10 companies, as you see on the screen here. Really, our mission is to deliver uninterrupted operations for your organization, and we'll get into a little bit of how we do that in the coming slides. So before we get into the Zerto, the meat of it and what we do with the technology, I'd like to kind of level set and just kind of talk about the threat landscape. So what we're seeing is, unfortunately, is the increase or growth of ransomware attacks, right? The severity, the sophistication, and the frequency of them. When we look at severity, we're seeing, for example, the average ransom demanded has actually increased dramatically. Last year, the first half of 2024, the average ransom demanded was over $5 million. All in all, over $40 billion in losses for organizations in the US can be attributed to ransomware attacks. So these are obviously these are non-trivial numbers. These are pretty serious. This is a pretty serious threat. When we look at the sophistication part, we mentioned it earlier, talking about how AI is kind of top of mind right now. Unfortunately, one of the ways that AI is actually, while it's benefiting a lot of us in different ways, there's also a downside. So there's been a proliferation of things like generative AI attacks. So cyber criminals are actually leveraging Gen AI tools to automate and enhance the complexity of their attacks. So things like AI-driven phishing campaigns, rapid malware development, things like that have really outpaced traditional defense mechanisms and legacy, cybersecurity methods. And then, of course, things like ransomware as a service, different types of tactics to extort organizations, as well as the vulnerabilities in the cloud infrastructure, have all really led to this increase of sophistication for these attacks. And lastly, staying on the topic of cloud, we are seeing a 13% increase in cloud ransomware attacks over the past 5 years. So this is really, it's kind of, you're getting hit from every angle. It's not just the frequency of it, but the severity and the sophistication is also growing. Luckily, with Zerto, we can actually help to combat this, and we'll talk about this in the coming slides. So, in particular, what we do here at Zerto is we meet the challenges that you face across all the platforms you use, with a key focus on 3 use cases: disaster recovery, ransomware resilience, and multi-cloud mobility. We're really focused on these to ensure that all of our customers can achieve continuous protection for all of their apps, as well as any cloud environment and any type of threat. So all of this is based on a foundation of continuous data protection, or CDP. This is actually a space that we pioneered and have been a leader for in over a decade now. When we think about ransomware attacks or a disaster, right? A lot of times the first thing that comes to mind is daily backups. We all are very familiar with backup solutions, and while they do have a time and place, unfortunately, time is money, data is money, and when you are in an ever-connected world like we are today, we just cannot afford the type of data loss and downtime that backups provide. So daily backups sometimes can get you, RPOs of 24 hours and RTOs of 8 hours, right? So data loss of 24 hours and downtime of several hours. That's unfortunately not going to cut it, especially when your RPO and RTOs are measured in hours. Every single incident or outage ends up costing much more than it really has to. So the next kind of level up from that is storage replication. Unfortunately, you're still looking at hours of data loss and hours of downtime. However, with Zerto, we can drastically reduce that data loss and downtime by recovering within minutes at scale from really any point in time. So you can rewind and resume operations without having to go to last night's backup, for example, or a replicated snapshot that's aging rapidly. So you can pick a checkpoint that's 5 or 10 seconds prior to a ransomware attack, for example, and then roll back within minutes to pick up right where you left off on. So no fuss, no hassle, and a dramatic cost savings compared to the alternatives. Now, you might be asking yourself, how do we achieve these drastically low SLAs? Well, the continuous data protection that I mentioned is really the foundation of all this. It's made possible with our block level replication. So this is near synchronous replication. So it's the best of both synchronous and asynchronous approaches. On top of that, we sit at the hypervisor level. So we are fully software only solution that is totally independent of your underlying hardware and infrastructure. So including storage. So we can be completely agnostic and play well with just about anybody. So that's really part of why Zerto works so well across hypervisors and different clouds and platforms. You really have the choice to do what's best for your business while we work in the background without any impact to production. So there's no fiddling with backup windows or tweaking schedules or managing snapshot chains, anything like that. So once we're set up, we're continuously replicating and staying always on to keep you always protected. Now, part of what makes our continuous data protection so unique and powerful is the journaling capabilities we have, right? So I'm sure you've heard the term continuous data protection. You know, if you've been around the backup and recovery space, I'm sure that's a word that you're probably familiar with, or most are familiar with. Just being able to capture a write or an IO does not necessarily mean you have true continuous data protection. It really has to be paired with a dynamic, hyper-efficient journal, and our journal does just that. So it tracks every single change made in your application or on your server, and it logs these as checkpoints every 5 to 10 seconds, even if you have thousands of servers, for example. So we can simply rewind to an old checkpoint and easily recover from that exact point in time. So let's say a ransomware attack hits at exactly 10 a.m. We can roll back to 9:59 and 55 seconds and essentially mitigate that entire infection. That's really the power of our journal, and something that most others unfortunately can't deliver. You know, lastly, when we talk about true CDP, we have to keep a focus on the applications themselves and not think of individual servers in isolation, right? And I know I see here is that, backup is not disaster recovery. Don't want to keep harping on backup, but unfortunately it is true, especially for your critical, mission critical tier 1, tier 0 applications. Backup just won't cut it. One of the reasons is because modern apps are generally comprised of multiple VMs that are all interdependent, right? So legacy data protection makes life much harder for IT teams by offering restore points from very inconsistent points in time, which only then extends RTO and complicates recovery. Zerto, on the other hand, solves for this challenge of recovering these complex apps by protecting all your workloads as single cohesive logical entities. So that way you avoid that inconsistent recovery of multi-VM applications where each VM is being restored to a different point in time. So this allows you to protect and recover these applications together as a single unit, and saves a ton of resources when you're trying to reduce the amount of time dedicated to recovery. And now that simplified recovery that I've been discussing here, right, is really powered by this built-in orchestration engine. Not a separate product that's just kind of been thrown on top. With Zerto, you simply select the applications or servers you want to recover, pick the exact point in time you need down to the second, really, and then start the failover or restore process. And then if there's a ransomware attack or some sort of disruption, that kind of fast recovery is exactly how you're able to dramatically limit downtime and get back up and running very quickly. One of the ways in which our orchestration and automation really comes alive is with failover testing. We have an awesome example here of a real insurance customer, actually, who before Zerto, it actually took them 3.5 days to do their testing. That's right, 3.5 days to do their testing. They had extensive runbooks, lengthy DR exercises. It was a mess. After Zerto, they were able to reduce that by 98%, and they took this complicated 3-day process down to 2 hours. And that's one example of several customers who really have realized this value from our non-disruptive testing that you can even do during during work hours with no impact to production. And this is all very achievable for everybody's organization. I want to shift gears a little bit. We kind of talked a little bit about what makes Zerto so special, so unique. We talked about the disaster recovery and ransomware recovery capabilities. I want to focus really on ransomware resilience and cyber recovery from here on out, because it's a little different. There's differences between cyber recovery and disaster recovery, for example. One of those, of course, is the unpredictable nature of a ransomware attack, right? Each attack varies so much versus, a natural disaster. There is some level of planning you can do. Ransomware attack is a completely unpredictable pattern. Unpredictable, of course, blast radius. You don't know how much has been compromised, how extensive the lateral movement is. Obviously, you don't know when it's coming. There's no heads up oftentimes. And the unclean recovery points is also a huge point of contention. So how do we know where to recover back to? How do we know where it's safe to recover back to? And then, of course, the big thing, huge data loss and downtime. How do we limit how much we lose and how long we're down? Are days and weeks of recovery point objectives and recovery time objectives just something we have to live with? Or can we, is our hours realistic? Are minutes realistic, right? So we can actually help with all of these with Zerto. And it really actually starts with our real-time replication and real-time encryption detection. So we discussed the real-time replication, right? Logging checkpoints in the journal so you can restore and go back 5 to 10 seconds, mitigate that data loss. Well, we also have a built-in encryption detection that's real-time, that replicates, that detects suspicious writes as they stream in, and it flags them for you to investigate. So we actually had a manufacturing customer comment on this, and this is an awesome quote, and just a great testament to the power that we have with this technology. So Zerto's real-time ransomware detection puts us in a much stronger position to both identify and mitigate ransomware attacks. This gives us the confidence that we can proactively meet the risks presented by ransomware. So that is really what it's all about, right? It's giving you that confidence back because, as we mentioned in the last slide, there is that unpredictable nature of ransomware attacks. You don't know when they might hit. You don't know when there's a clean recovery point to the clean point to recover back to. You don't know the blast radius, etc. Right? With Zerto, we actually are able to help detect these incidences much quicker, and then restore back to a clean point and really give you that peace of mind, that knowing that you'll be okay if the worst happens, right? Again, the replicate and detect really allows you to easily identify that blast radius and tag compromised applications. The nice thing as well that I have yet to mention, that is a huge part of this is all by design. This is built into Zerto. There's no added cost for this ransomware detection. Many others on the market, unfortunately, add this as an option. This is completely purpose-built and designed, so at no extra cost, this encryption detection is offered. And also, it is an API-first design, so it easily integrates with your existing security stack. Now, what happens if there's a severe ransomware attack where everything is compromised, where there's huge lateral movement at play? Well, the next evolution of data protection really requires an ironclad cyber vault as a key part of any organization's ransomware or cyber resilience strategy, right? May or may not have seen some of these coming to fruition on the market. The Zerto Cyber Resilience Vault is different because this vault leverages the unique strengths of the Zerto replication and the Zerto journal we've been talking about, and it combines them with the industry-leading hardware from HPE to deliver rapid air-gapped recovery, unlike really anything else on the market. It's purpose-built for cyber recovery, and it's really the option of last resort in these worst-case scenarios. Now, how does this work, right? So the Cyber Vault, as I mentioned, leverages the strengths of Zerto, replication and journaling with HPE Electra Storage, HPE ProLiant Compute, and HPE Aruba Networking to deliver this rapid air-gapped recovery. So when all else fails after a ransomware attack, this is your all-in-one solution to keep your data protected and get you back up and running quickly. If we look at the architecture, and we can take a look at the Cyber Vault in action. So if your production site goes down, you select your VMs that you need to recover, select a clean checkpoint from the journal, and non-disruptively test and validate clean restore points. So as I mentioned, you can test at any time without impact to your production. But what if your replication target goes down and you now need to recover from the vault itself? Well, it's actually not much of a problem at all. Mounting a snapshot from the HP Electra to the replication target that went down, then everything is powered back online and replicated from the vault using a clean copy back to the replication target, and you're all set. And of course, this is all done with our best-in-class RTOs and RPOs as well. And when we look at the Zerto Cyber Vault versus the leading backup-based Cyber Vault, again, we are seeing these huge benefits in terms of data loss, downtime, right? Last good copy with the leading backup-based Cyber Vault, average of 2 days. With the Zerto Cyber Vault, it's 4 hours or less. Time to restore, 22 days. That's 3 weeks versus 2 hours. I mean, some of these numbers are, I'm laughing a little because it's wild how much we are able to save when it comes to downtime and data loss with Zerto. And then here we go. For me, this is the biggest thing. Total ransomware impact from 3 to 5 weeks goes down to 6 hours or less. That's over 99% reduction. So I probably don't need to get to harp on this too much more, but these numbers kind of speak for themselves. And it's, again, our leading solution for this cyber recovery that honestly just kind of blows the leading backup-based Cyber Vault out of the water. What we have also created is the Zerto Cloud Vault, right? So the Zerto Cloud Vault, very similar to the Cyber Vault. However, as the name implies, it is hosted in the cloud, and it combines logical air gapping, immutability, isolated clean room recovery, all through our Zerto managed service providers, right? So in partnership with our trusted providers, we are able to combine our technology and software with secure hosted infrastructure and cyber recovery experts to really ensure your data can be recovered from cyber attacks. So this is really more of that. Again, the Cyber Vault is more of the do-it-yourself. The Cloud Vault, this is where our service providers come in and can do this for you. So this delivers the scalability and cost efficiency for your organization, as of course it eliminates that need for physical hardware and reduces those maintenance expenses. So it's managed as a service, and it really the Cloud Vault provider handles the implementation, the management, and allows your organization to really focus more on your core operations while simultaneously benefiting from this automated data protection and flexible remote access to your data as well. So we have really these two different vaults to fit your different needs. Some prefer the cyber vault, others would kind of go down this cloud vault route, a little bit more hands off, and this is what other organizations prefer. So again, detection and isolation, immutability, just like the cloud vault, or the cyber vault, with the cloud storage piece as well. One thing I wanted to mention too, currently we have 4 partners, AssureStore, Verinext, Lincoln IT, and Converge Technology Solutions that host this this vault and can manage it for you. And this quote here kind of also stands out. 94% of organizations hit by ransomware in the past year have said that their cyber criminals attempted to compromise their backups during the attack. So again, not to continue to kind of beat on the backup when it's down, but the journal-based recovery with continuous data protection that we offer with the Cyber Vault and the Cloud Vault, and really is more is a more robust solution when it comes to cyber resilience and recovery than a backup would be. We talked about the Cloud Vault, and I'd like to stay on the topic of the cloud. Right, we're again, in a lot of environments today, I shouldn't say most, but a lot of environments, we're seeing this hybrid cloud approach, and this is actually also one of our strengths that we have. So if we look at the hybrid cloud landscape, right, of Zerto and what we offer. So first of all, of course, we have our private cloud, the virtualization side, and that's still very popular. So replicating from site A to site B, from site B to site A, all with minimal impact to your environment, with those drastically low RPOs and RTOs. We see people also using public cloud and various other providers for their disaster recovery requirements. So we can replicate out to not only public cloud and not just the public cloud, but also managed service providers as well, that offer disaster recovery as a service in their own cloud environment. So we can replicate to more than one place at the same time. We can have up to 3 different copies of the same data going to 3 different places. So you can have a local copy going between the 2 data centers you still own. You can have a secondary copy going out to a public cloud, and then you can even have a 3rd copy going to a disaster recovery as a service site that a managed service provider offers. So this really provides you that ultimate flexibility, and you can choose which of your apps go to which sites. Then, of course, we have disaster recovery within and between clouds. So just because you're running apps inside the cloud doesn't necessarily mean that there aren't going to be any threats like ransomware attacks. So we still have to make sure we're prepared. And of course, we can also replicate. We can also back up within and between clouds. So we store data inside cloud environments. How do we ensure that data, like SaaS apps, are protected as well? We can achieve all of these great things with our simple, scalable solution. So replicate to the cloud, public, and even private with our managed service providers, and replicate to multiple clouds simultaneously, and even have even protect your SaaS apps as well. So we kind of really run the gamut when it comes to the cloud. And of course, our bread and butter, the Zerto Classic that we're most associated with, is Zerto for VMware. But we also deliver protection for workloads in the public cloud like Azure. So combining Zerto and Azure helps businesses to really simplify data protection and disaster recovery. So we can use Azure as a disaster recovery site, or protect across DR regions to really eliminate the capital costs associated with owning and operating your own data center, with built-in support as well for Azure Blob Storage, We really protect and can migrate any type of workload to and from Azure. And also, when it comes to AWS, whether you're migrating or protecting virtual instances on premise to the cloud or within the cloud, we're able to utilize the unlimited capacity of AWS while minimizing data downtime and data loss, so you can achieve your recovery point objectives and recovery time objectives with ease. So we can recover VMs on premise to native EC2 instances as well, and again provide those lightning fast RTOs and RPOs to really ensure that uninterrupted experience. Touched on this a little earlier. I won't get into too much of this, but we really are this all-in-one powerful solution for migrating workloads to, from, and between cloud platforms like Azure and AWS and others, really ensuring that seamless transition with near zero data loss and minimal downtime. So, for example, we can move to the cloud, make the move to the cloud fast and easy. So a company transitioning from an on-premise data center to Azure can actually use Zerto to migrate hundreds of virtual machines within weeks, leveraging our automation to minimize that disruption and leverage our real-time replication to ensure that company can migrate even during business hours without any downtime, achieving really smooth go live. We can also migrate between clouds, something that a lot of others do not offer that we really are known for. So companies leveraging a multi-cloud strategy, we enable those effortless migrations between cloud platforms. So if you need to shift workloads from Azure to AWS for regional compliance, cost optimization, things like that, with Zerto, we can orchestrate the migration across cloud regions without having to reconfigure applications or experiencing much downtime or anything, meeting your compliance requirements quite seamlessly. And of course, touch on this a little bit as well, but disaster recovery as a service. So we offer this through our 350 premier service providers worldwide. So whether you want something that's completely fully managed, you don't have to worry about something that's partially managed, or even something that's self-managed, we offer those as well, with flexible licensing and billing models through our providers. So that is also an option as well for your recovery needs. We've been talking about, it's funny because we've been talking about data protection. We've been talking about this journal-based recovery, how much quicker, faster it is than backup. But as I mentioned, backup and recovery, backup has a time and place for it. With HPE, we actually kind of run the gamut. So if you need that lightning fast 5 to 15 second RPOs, we have you covered with Zerto, right? As I mentioned, as well as Zerto disaster recovery as a service with MSPs as well. So we have you covered for those tier 1 applications, mission critical applications, for those tier 3, 4 applications, right? For those retention needs, we do also offer HPE Store Once and HPE Store Ever and Zerto Backup for SaaS as well. So again, there is a huge time and place for backup. There's a huge need for it, of course. But if you're looking to drastically reduce your downtime and data loss for those mission critical applications, Zerto is really is the key for that. And then for the other applications, we do of course have backup solutions as well. And of course for cyber recovery, as we talked about, Zerto Cyber Vault, Cyber Resilience Vault, and the Zerto Cloud Vault. Now, as I'm wrapping up here, I know we've kind of gone through a lot. We've talked a lot about the value of Zerto, the benefits, right? A lot of it is kind of theoretical, right? I've mentioned what is possible, what we can do. What I'd like to leave you with here is Zerto in action and some real customer success stories here of Zerto really for lack of a better phrase, saving the day. So we have a customer called Tenkata. They are a manufacturing company. They manufacture fabric and uniforms and things like that for firefighters, military personnel, really these, very important high stakes jobs. Before they had Zerto, they got hit with a ransomware attack. They were using backup. Their data loss, they had 12 hours of data loss, and it took them 2 weeks to recover, right? Again, they're a pretty important business. I mean, we have firefighters and military personnel counting on them to create, to manufacture these textiles and fabrics for them. So it's not really a business that's conducive to lots of downtime, lots of data loss. They ended up implementing Zerto. They got hit with another ransomware attack. It happens, unfortunately. This time, their data loss went from 12 hours to 10 seconds. That's right, 12 hours to 10 seconds. The recovery time went from a staggering 2 weeks to 10 minutes. So it sounds crazy, but this is a real customer here. And this quote, I love it. Honestly, in the recent attack, I knew I had a way out with Zerto. I was confident. My heart didn't sink. I chose a recovery point a few minutes before the infection, tested for the VM being clean, and was back to work. What if you notice this quote, the another quote I shared earlier, both have the same theme of confidence, right? It's that confidence and that peace of mind that we deliver, knowing that whatever happens, you will be covered with Zerto. So this was just one story I wanted to share with you all, just to show you the real power of Zerto and Zerto in action. And of course, before I leave you, one final slide. I'm sure you've heard of some of these companies. United Airlines, we were able to protect their website and application that generates $1 million per hour. So if they're down for an hour, that's $1 million right there. 1 hour, $1 million. So they count on us to make sure that they're up and running at all times. Healthcare companies, HCA Healthcare, they're healthcare, they conglomerate in the Midwest, I believe. We were able to reduce their DR solutions down from 4 to just 1 and save them $10 million. So just a couple examples here. Really some astounding numbers here when you look at it and what we can deliver. So with that, I really thank you for your time today, and I will, Anthony and I would love to hear from you, and if you have any questions for us.
Yeah, Mike, that's great. Let's bring Anthony back in. We will have some questions coming from the audience, but before we do, I want to walk through the migration process one more time, just a little talk through migrating. Everybody always has something, right? They and it's interesting. You don't really know what you have until you've been attacked, and then sometimes you find out the hard way that you might not have enough. But say somebody is, New Year's resolution, they want a little more cyber resilience. They reach out through seeing something like a presentation in an event like this. What are they in for, and what do you recommend they think about as they get ready for that conversation?
It is such a hard task to even think about. Where do you get started? So really what it boils down to is, from the Zerto side of things, it's determining, like we've seen in Mike's presentation, if you are looking for that operationally efficient, hey, we are looking to protect these virtual machines or applications with Zerto, then what is on top of mind for you is that these apps are tier 0 to tier 1, mission critical. If these go down for even 5 minutes, then our business is, like we've seen in some of the examples, losing close to millions of dollars per hour in itself. And that's the benefit of Zerto from a DR standpoint, is we now bring those apps up very, very quickly, and you're operationally efficiently back online as quick as possible. Now, that does come with a cost, right? It's very expensive to replicate things that quickly, to tracking changes all the time and having to move it as flexibly as you can between on-prem public cloud providers with Zerto itself. And then that's where you sort of, like Mike also shown in his last slide there, we can sort of tear off those 3-4 layer applications to maybe a backup or another technology that you might not need that level of data protection or requirement to come back to, right? You don't need to be as operationally efficient or back online as quickly as you would with something like Zerto. So really your needs are going to vary, and it is best to have a defense in-depth approach, as many layers of data protection as possible in order to be as combative to ransomware as we see.
Well, so I want to dig in again on the difference between the Cyber Resilience Vault and the Cloud Vault, because I want to make sure people understand the difference, because there's a lot of vaulting going on there. So, so just walk us through that one. Walk us through that one more time, and also I think what people will want to know is, which one is best for me. How do people think about which one they should be angling toward?
So yeah, I can take that. I'll take that one. So the Cyber Resilience Vault, again, it provides that isolated, air-gapped environment for highly sensitive workloads and organizations requiring that additional layer of security against ransomware. The Cyber Vault is a combination of the Zerto technology with the HPE hardware, so storage, compute, networking. The Zerto Cloud Vault, on the other hand, is a cloud-based immutable storage solution that offers a scalable, a little bit more flexible solution, making it more ideal for organizations that maybe prioritize cloud-first strategies, need to protect workloads across hybrid or multi-cloud environments, don't want to deal much with the costs associated with maintenance for hardware, and of course, again, it's hosted by a managed service provider, which takes care of it for you, so you're not have to worry about that aspect of it like you might with the Cyber Vault. The choice between the two depends on, again, your company's really specific needs. So for cloud-based protection and recovery with that scalability and less maintenance costs, the Cloud Vault might be the option for you. The Cyber Vault might be better for others who would require that max isolation and security for their critical data, and maybe don't take that cloud first approach.
Yeah. So how does the Cloud Vault protect against ransomware attacks versus traditional backup solutions? I mean, where do the differences start to show?
Absolutely. So in one area in particular is the idea of immutability. So with our Zerto Cyber Resilience Vault, the immutable snapshots and replication happening between the electric components within it provide that extra layer of protection. The idea of Zerto being the main recoverability tool in it, being able to recover from a checkpoint, doing so quickly, is the other major difference and benefit from that standpoint. But I think if you're talking about Cloud Vault in itself, really what you're doing is you're offloading a lot of that risk and responsibility of having to maintain that immutability, scanning everything within this vault itself to these trusted MSP providers that have already checked the boxes in all the compliance areas, and you're just simply replicating to them and letting them handle the cyber resilience and recovery themselves. So really a major difference compared to having to manage a backup by itself, the usability of it, and again, taking advantage of an MSP, offloading that risk, and letting them do what they do best to protect you is just an enormous benefit.
Well, so one question we have is around the licensing model, and without getting into pricing, because everybody obviously is different. How does the licensing model work for Cloud Vault storage capacity versus actual use storage? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So when we're talking about Zerto licensing in itself, when you are tasked to Zerto license, it's not per terabyte or anything of that nature. It's how many VMs are you looking to protect and for how long. Now, when you're talking about the Zerto Cyber Resilience Vault in itself, that has another completely new license associated to it, which does pretty much, again, the same thing, Zerto on the front end. But all you're doing on that solution is paying for the underlying infrastructure that you'll have to host and take care of yourself there. So it's just an upfront cost to that, and then the Zerto licensing in itself. Now, when it comes to the Cloud Vault, right, you're going to be working out with that MSP provider, meaning from a subscription standpoint. Hey, we want to protect these many virtual machines inside of the vault and ensure this level of SLA for these VMs at these different levels.
Well, and so as somebody enters into a consideration cycle and reaches out directly to Zerto, where do they ultimately end up? Is the sales cycle through Zerto, or is most everything through the partners?
A lot before, especially before we became part of the HP family, was through partner organizations. As Mike mentioned, 3,500, 350 plus MSPs are using Zerto as their DRaaS solution for you to just replicate to. So a lot of people are starting there, right? Hey, if I'm a smaller organization and I, again, don't want to manage that risk of having a second DR site or having a backup site myself, then going the MSP route is definitely a smarter and more efficient option. If you're somebody who likes to do it themselves, take the responsibility, really want to be Superman within their organization, we see a lot of administrators, virtual admins, storage admins sort of just take on the Zerto software themselves. We have a ton of free demos and things for them to use to get started, and they go usually that route. So
let's talk a little bit about size of company, because again, one of the phenomenons I think we see here at Solutions Review is that some people believe, you know what, I'm too small to get ransomwared. What do you see in terms of attacks that have happened, size of companies that you're working with? And advice that you would offer up to folks that are maybe thinking they might be on the cusp of needing or not needing something as powerful as Zerto?
It's not a unique problem. Ransomware, it's not only large companies, obviously. I mean, those are the ones you see the headlines, right? Because when a Fortune 500 company gets hit, that's everywhere. Everybody sees it. Everybody knows the name. But small businesses, medium-sized businesses, you name it, we protect community credit unions, small hospital systems, all the way up to, American Airlines. So it's not a unique threat. As I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, unfortunately, it's a growing threat in severity and sophistication and frequency. And if you're a small business, honestly, it's going to hurt you more, obviously, because you just are more limited resource-wise. So you might not necessarily be able to afford that ransom, whereas a large corporation, they might be able to afford it. They might not want to pay it, but they can, obviously take that hit a little bit easier, so to speak, than a small business. And then the last piece also that I wanted to mention too is so Zerto and backup, as I've said a few times now, and Anthony said, there's a time and place for both. So I'm sure everybody, whether you're small, medium, large, has some sort of backup strategy. But every company, regardless of size, has specific applications that just can't go down. Like if they go down, they're in trouble. So for those tier 0 mission critical applications, I'm speaking as objectively as possible. It's in your best interest to have a solution like Zerto in place, so if something happens, you're back up and running, versus a traditional or legacy backup solution where you could be down for several hours, days, and obviously most businesses, especially smaller ones, can't afford that. So you can have kind of the best of both worlds, where you can have Zerto for those mission critical applications. And Anthony mentioned it might be it's a little more expensive, but ultimately worth it. And then for those other applications where you don't mind the downtime, you can use a backup solution.
And that's the thing too. So as an SMB, coming back to that question overall, right? You're not more safe or secure than anybody else. I think one, again, staggering statistic that Mike showed in the beginning is just the rise of ransomware with generative AI and how easy it is to use. I think you're going to see, what we are seeing is hackers and things like that develop this technology. I mean, adopt this sort of technology, and they're not going after big companies necessarily because they know they have the most sort of security out there. So why not attack mom and pop shop with my generated AI code when I could practice this in, there's sort of these many different smaller organizations rather than attacking just one large one. So if you're a small business, don't think, nobody's going to come after me. People go after opportunity, and that's pretty much it wherever they have. But again, to Mike's point, whatever is going to protect you is what is best for your organization. If that means doing a day or 2 day backup, and that's all you guys can afford and have the money for, then implement that strategy as soon as possible. Having something is better than having absolutely nothing at the end of the day.
Well, and I think what we've seen from our perspective is that you're only as secure as the weakest link in the chain, right? There's always somebody who's going to do something that they shouldn't have. There's no going back. There's no undo button necessarily once a cyber attack spools up, and then you're chasing your tail. So it's better, obviously, to be proactive, and the beginning of the year is always a good time to start. We have another question from our audience. This one is specifically, is there a timeline for integration with Zerto and HPE VM Essentials?
Hard-hitting question. No, not at this time. It's not. But for those who don't know, HPE has pretty much come out with their own virtualization platform and technology. Very much in response to and because of what's happening with Broadcom, and a lot of our customers are looking to other hypervisors as well. So right now you cannot use Zerto to move to that platform, but please do stay there.
All right. Well, before I let you go, I've got a couple experts here that I always want to ask to get the best advice. So we just started the new year. Folks, are starting to put their priorities in order. But what would you say they should be thinking about with regard to, potentially, putting in an immutability solution, something, a little stronger on the cyber resilience? How should they be thinking about it internally before they even potentially start the conversation? What should they be doing? Should they be taking stock of where they are? Should they start a process of having larger conversations with solution providers externally? I mean, what would you offer individually, each of you? What would you offer as advice for folks who are in that mindset?
I'll definitely kick it off. The first thing you want to do is generate what's called a TCO calculator. We have some tools out there, things of that nature, that say, hey, these are the applications. If it goes down, this is what it's going to cost the business. I would put in your hours it takes to make you, if you're the IT guy, bring it back up, put that in there. How much it's going to cost you, your wife yelling at you, your family being mad at you, all that lost time. Incorporate that into a nice spreadsheet and say, hey, if we go down, this is what the cost is going to be. From there, now go ahead and explore these many different data protection technologies. Again, I'm going to go back to our free hands-on labs with Zerto. Go sign up, play with this stuff yourself, see how it works, see what works best for you and those tiers of applications that you're protecting. And then finally from there, the last thing and the only thing that you can do is get as much stakeholder buy-in as possible. Show the urgency to everyone from the CEO to the janitor themselves, right? How is this impacting your life and your bottom line? And the story becomes much more compelling aside from just the dollars and cents that you've shown in the beginning there.
No, perfect. And just to piggyback off that a little bit is, not to kind of put it, not to put a fear spin on it, but it's really, you have to look at the what if scenarios, right? What happens if this service goes down for X number of hours? Who's at risk? What's the service level impact look like? Many people will come to back us and say, I didn't realize if this thing went down, then IT couldn't deliver this, or, this critical service that we offer, it's a huge issue. So it's really what's truly at stake if this goes down. That's kind of what you have to ask yourself. And then from there, it's kind of like a snowball effect. If this goes down, then this happens, then this. So we really need to try to mitigate that. So that's going off of what Anthony said, I think that's a good place to start.
Yeah, and we would obviously encourage everyone to go to Zerto.com. It is an HP company, but it is best reached at their URL, Zerto.com. There's a wide range of knowledge and information. There's a demo button. There's a whole host of resources, information about all kinds of solutions, a try or buy feature, and some of the other tools that Anthony mentioned, TCO and so forth. It's always a pleasure to have leading solutions in our spotlight. This has been a great presentation. It sounds like people will be well served to reach out and have this conversation. So again, we encourage everybody to do that. But Mike, Anthony, thanks very much for the time today. Appreciate the presentation, and best of luck for the rest of 2025.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you, Doug.
Well, there you have it. Another solution in our spotlight. We want to thank Zerto, Anthony, and Mike for that presentation, and we appreciate your attendance as well. Until next time, I'm Doug Atkinson here at Solutions Review. Thanks for watching.
If your business would like to be featured in a future event, contact us today.